Marc Marquez took pole position at Jerez, won the sprint, led the Grand Prix from the start, and then quietly told the world he had already given up on the title. Not after the crash, before it. That is not a bad weekend. That is something else entirely. What does it mean when the reigning champion stops pretending? And why is the most honest thing he has ever said also the most damaging? The crash was the headline. It always is with Marquez. Turn 11, lap 2, the bike closes up under him, he goes down. The GP26 cartwheels through the gravel. Dramatic, brutal, quotable. But the crash is not the story. It never was. The story was the sentence he delivered afterwards, calm and measured, and without a single excuse, that confirmed what the data had been saying for 4 rounds. Once you hear that sentence, the whole weekend looks different. Round 4 of 22. The reigning world champion is 44 points off the lead. That is not a crisis in isolation. Champions come back from worse. But the gap is not the problem. The problem is what Marquez said about it, and what it reveals about the machine underneath him and the body inside the leathers. He had already accepted what Sunday was going to be before the race started. That is not an inference. He said it himself. After the crash, Marquez confirmed he had gone into the Grand Prix targeting 3rd or 4th place at best. Pole position, sprint winner, home crowd. And his realistic ceiling for the race was a podium, if everything went perfectly. That is the collapse the crash obscured. Not what happened at turn 11, but the ambition that had already been walked back before he ever reached it. A champion who believes he can win does not set his private target at 4th. That is a rider managing a situation, not attacking one. Managing it quietly, without flagging it, is its own kind of admission. He also said something the factory will have heard very clearly. He described Alex, his own brother, on a satellite Gresini Ducati, as operating on a different level, not as a rival to be fought, a different level entirely. Last year was different. I pushed too hard because I wanted to attack the rider in front of me. But this year, I didn't want to fight with Alex. I knew he was on a different level. That is not a racing comment made in the heat of the moment. That is a cold, considered ranking, delivered by the reigning world champion, placing himself below his younger brother in public before the lights went out. Now, here is the detail that reframes the entire story. Alex told reporters after the race that Marc's data had looked strange from the very first free practice session. Not slower overall, strange in a specific way. The weakness was in left-hand corners, the corners that have always been Marc's strongest territory, the area where he makes time back, the weapon he relies on when everything else is compromised. Alex said it plainly. Marc was losing the most time compared to him through the left turns, and that was unusual because it had never been that way before. The traditional strength had inverted, and then, in Monday's test, Marc confirmed it from his own words that he was beginning to recover some confidence in left-hand corners, the corners that were normally one of my strong points, that he had been fighting there all season long. The reigning world champion, working in a post-race test to rebuild a capability that used to be automatic. That is not a setup problem. That is a body problem. And Ducati team manager Davide Tardozzi had already said it out loud, weeks before this race, that Marquez remains physically compromised, that the Indonesia crash from 2025 is still present in the way he rides, still limiting what he can extract from the GP26, still visible in the data sessions. The factory had been careful with its language for months, but Tardozzi stopped being careful before Jerez even arrived. When a team manager publicly confirms the champion is not physically right, it is because the alternative, pretending everything is fine while the lap times keep telling a different story, has become untenable. So take the full picture together. A rider whose signature strength has become a weakness. A body that is still recovering from a crash 6 months ago. A team manager who has now confirmed it publicly. A pre-race target of 3rd or 4th on a circuit that was supposed to suit him. And a satellite bike. Same machine, different garage. Winning by nearly 2 seconds. The GP26 is fast enough to win. Alex just proved that. and Bagnaia's retirement with a technical issue, the rear brake failing entirely mid-race, means both factory riders went home with nothing from the same bike on the same afternoon. 2 failures, 2 different causes, 0 podiums from the factory side. The limitation in Marc's case is not the machine. Marc knows it, Tardozzi knows it, and now everyone else knows it too. At the moment, we're not riding at our best, nor do we have the pace, my pace, to fight for the World Championship. He said that, out loud, in April, 4 rounds in. That sentence is not humility. It is data delivered by a man who has stopped hiding it. Let's be honest about what that actually means. Marquez is not the kind of person who performs modesty. He performs confidence, even when confidence is not entirely justified. He leans into the narrative. He controls the story. When he stops doing that, when he sits in front of a microphone and quietly describes where he actually stands, it means the numbers have removed the option of any other version. He has been in difficult positions before and found his way back. But those recoveries happened when he had a body he trusted and a package that responded. Right now, he does not have both of those things at the same time, and the championship gap is not waiting for him to get there. The Monday test gave Ducati a direction. New aero, a revised swing arm, some progress on the front-end feel. Marquez finished 4th, behind 3 Aprilias, and said he found confidence. But confidence in a test is not the same as pace in a race, and the test result itself carried its own message. Aprilia locked out the top 3. Ogura went quickest with a late lap. Bezzecchi slotted 3rd despite crashing on his outlap. The gap between where Ducati needs to be and where it is did not close on Monday. It was documented again in the same place by the same bikes the day after the race. People expected Jerez to be the reset. Marquez had framed it that way himself. Better physically, familiar track, home crowd. The first round he was approaching with genuine confidence about his body. What actually happened is that he took pole, won the sprint through circumstances he openly called lucky, went into Sunday already adjusting his expectations downward, crashed out in the first 2 laps, and then told the truth about all of it. No rage, no deflection, just reality. And that is what makes this the most dangerous moment of his title defence so far. Not the 44 points, not the crash, but the fact that the reigning champion looked at the evidence and agreed with it. When a champion stops fighting the narrative, it means the data has made the fight pointless. Who picks up the title he just unlocked? Leave a comment below and subscribe if you want to follow how this season plays out.